Howdy ho, and welcome to the show. Why every trucker should care about broker rules. Today's show is why you should really stop and ask yourself, does what happened with brokers really make a difference? I mean, some staggering facts have come out from a landline magazine I want to discuss tonight. A whopping $800 million is estimated in freight fraud annually. Fraud and dodgy practices that could sink a small operator in no time flat. People don't really think about that when they do business every day, when they make phone calls, when they try to get things arranged. They really don't think about some of the intricate things that go on in the background. And we're not just talking about dollars and cents. We're talking about the very survival of independent truckers that don't know the individual workings of how load boards are put together. Loads are offered and proctored out from customers to shippers, from shippers to drivers, and just how the whole freight network works. And lately, the FMCSA has gotten involved and decided to put their 2 cents in the middle of it. This landline article talks about it, and we're going to talk about it here tonight. So I want your input. I want you involved. And lo and behold, you have reached you have reached the point where you can make your voice matter. That's what I wanted to say, even though I'm having trouble saying it. So my question is, will the FMCSA deliver this month and make the changes necessary that we all need and can agree with? You know, some people on one side agree with these changes. Some people on the other don't necessarily. So, everybody's got their opinion out there, and I welcome yours. I want to know what you think. I want to know how you feel about this whole thing. And we're going to get into that tonight on Truckin City Journal. So just hang tight and look for the best in trucking. As reported by a guy named Mark Schremer in Landline, the FMCSA is expected to propose new rules that are going to make a big difference and close the gaps brokers have used to avoid providing transparency and also a very negative atmosphere amongst other truckers. So my question to you tonight, and I'm going to ask you in the audience, and hopefully you'll give me something to go on, how you think, how you feel, what you think needs to happen going forward, what you think will make a difference. I want to hear from you. Will this make a difference to us owner-operators? Will company drivers even notice or even care? We've seen a lot of fraud here recently, especially with the upcoming, awareness that there are people looking for loads in and out of disaster areas. So, to me, this sounds like a rightful and good topic to talk about. How do you battle this? How do you figure it out? Especially in times like now with confusion and chaos. What do we do? How do we look for the good and the bad? And going forward, if FMCSA actually does pass any rules, will it truly make a difference? So let's bring it on. Let's bring it up. Let's hash it out right here on Truckin City Journal.
Shall we begin?
From the headquarters of the Truth in Broadcasting Network, introducing Truckin City Journal and the El-Rushbo of Truckin News, Boss Man.
You can call us at 860-785-3547. You can call our studio lines to be part of the show. Sound off, make your opinions known. Greetings, truck lovers and visionaries all across this heartland. Email us also at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. Thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. You can make a difference in trucking today just by being part of this show. We're broadcasting from inside the Truckin City Studios headquarters located in North Carolina. I am Boss Man, the CIC of the United States of Trucking, looking to start a movement and make you better for it. Opening the best call-in show of our time. Coming to you with this skill granted by God himself to restore your faith in broadcast talent with my hopefully very unique and well-received communication skills. There's always a way to make trucking great again, as displayed here. That is my main message by coming to you night after night. Your voice matters, and this show is your platform to be heard. Subscribe today and tell everyone you know that you found greatness once again right here at truckincitymedia.com. Inspiration, news, and good old-fashioned debate right here at Truckin City Journal and live twice a week on our Frontline shows on Wednesday and Saturday. So please consider subscribing and tell others about us. We are all things truckers, and brokers, they're giving you hell, so we're going to give it right back to them. And tonight, we're going to talk about broker transparency. Is it something to worry about, or will it really make a difference? Let me tell you something. Today, we're diving into a story, and it's a really pressing issue, and it's been simmering under the radar for too long, for really far too long. It's not new. It may be new to Landline in their article today. Well, let me set the scene. Imagine 4 years ago, the Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association laid down a challenge, and they petitioned the FMCSA to bring clarity and demand transparency to finally get a handle on broker practices that often keep our small business truckers in the dark. And this month, they're expecting an answer from that petition. In October 2024, there was a target set for a new rulemaking notice that might just start closing these loopholes. As reported by Mark Schremer in Landline, the FMCSA is expected to propose new rules that would close these gaps brokers have used to avoid providing the transparency required by law. And it's about accountability, according to him. The OOIDA is asking for brokers to stop throwing up roadblocks when truckers ask to see transaction records they're already legally entitled to. So what's at stake here? A whopping $800 million annually lost to freight fraud and dodgy practices that could sink a small operator in no time. We're not just talking about dollars. We're talking about the very survival of independent truckers, the backbone of our supply chain. So my question to you tonight is, will the FMCSA deliver and make these changes, or are they going to push it off like they always do? We're about to find out, and we're going to talk to you in the audience. Leave your comments. Call our studio line, 860-785-3547. Sound off on your opinions. Let's hash this out. Let's see if this really makes a difference. One way or the other, we are going to make this done, and we will make trucking great again. So let's welcome our panelists in, and let's see what everybody's got to say. There is a bunch of us out here. Thumper, you are by stretch one of the two panelists on this panel I have that have an independent stake in this. You want to, get the best loads possible. You want to do the best job you can for your company. And at the same time, I can't tell, I don't know that much about you. Are you really concerned about what a broker has done or has invested in that load before you get it? Is that really something that weighs heavily on your mind?
On the grain side, I don't really deal with brokers. I have dispatchers, and on the cattle side, I don't deal with brokers. We have direct contracts with people. So,
Okay.
on the grain side, I do know a little bit. I do know the people that we go through that dispatches our loads. They go through brokers. They deal with it a lot more than we do. Because
Right.
we pull their trailers for the grain, but on the cattle side, we're directly with American Food Group, so we have a contract with them. So I don't really deal with brokers.
Right. So what they have invested really doesn't enter into your equation very much.
Not really.
Okay. Howdy ho, Fate. Welcome to the show. Glad you can make it, my friend. Same question to you. I mean, when it comes down to it, when you deal with brokers on a daily basis, do you really worry about what they've got invested? Does it really matter to your equation of whether you take a load or not?
So first off, can you hear me?
Very well. Yes, sir.
Okay. I read this article.
Mhm.
I am totally against broker transparency. Let me make that very clear.
Mhm.
in the article, it talks about this isn't to see this isn't to see the money side of it, right? Well, if you read the rest of the article, in the next statement, it says that they want to see all the transactions with the broker so they can negotiate a fair rate next time.
Mm.
That's money. If you are negotiating a rate,
Mm-hmm.
why do you need to see what a broker is making to haul that load and feel like you got a fair rate? You're hauling, you should be hauling that freight based on what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Mute your mic, poet.
Just a minute.
There, you got it. You got it. Thought I had that handled, but sorry about that. Keep going, Faith.
I don't put anything on my trailer that doesn't work for me. If you are Spot Willie Jones
Mm-hmm.
and that is what you based your business on, anybody in trucking that's been in trucking for a long time will tell you that is not the way to build your business. Spot market is designed to get you back to your customer freight.
Very seldom. Very seldom has anybody ever succeeded, financially speaking, six figures with just the spot market. And if you do, it doesn't last long.
Right. And the last thing I'll say, and I mean,
Mhm.
Thumper can talk about this too. We show what we make to one person one time a year. That is our
Yeah.
accountant. If we start requiring businesses to show us what they're making,
Mhm.
where does it stop? When are they going to come to us and say, "Oh, wait a minute, you can't make a 60% profit on this load. You can only make a 20% profit."
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
You should become a prophet. You should become a prophet, Faith, because you pretty much forecasted what the second part of this show's about. Because I'm going to go into that.
we better be very careful what we wish for. Brokers
Yes.
are salesmen.
Yes. Yes.
That's what they are. They're salesmen.
Mhm.
They're doing a
Yeah.
job and they went out and got the customer. Me as an
Yes.
independent owner operator did not go out and get that customer.
Exactly. Exactly. Poet, go ahead and add to it. I mean, give me your 2 cents on this whole thing.
Okay. So it's not just brokers.
Mhm.
Okay. It's
Okay.
also the way I'm looking at it, and I'm a company driver and have been for 50 some odd years.
Mhm.
It's also the factoring companies that are not being transparent.
Well, factoring companies only have a small percentage. When they factor
No,
loads, Poet, I
yeah,
don't know if you realize this,
I
but there's
no,
only like maybe 3 to 5% of the factor,
I
fee to you.
understand. I
So
understand that, but they still, okay,
mhm.
along with the brokers,
Mhm.
go hand in hand with taking uh, dollars and cents out of your wallet, out of your freight. Okay,
Mhm.
like 20 years ago, we didn't have factoring companies that I'm
Right.
aware of. That I'm aware
Yeah.
of.
I think I know
Hey,
where you're going to go with this, Fate. Let them have it. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, Fate.
Go ahead.
Poet, think about what you're saying. Think
Yep.
about what you're saying. If you're using a factoring company, you signed up to use them and pay the percentage that they charge you. The reason factoring companies didn't exist 20 years ago is because people were good with their money. They were good with their money. They could wait the 30 days to get paid.
And
Factoring
I understand that, Fate. I do.
factoring companies factory companies are not taking any more than what you agreed to pay them. It's like
That's
using a credit card. Is it the credit cards company fault for charging interest that you agreed to pay when you got the credit card? Like,
Mhm.
think about
okay.
like
Okay, no, I agree with that. But when you put the two together, okay, in my way of thinking, sorry, I'm up in northern Canada and I have brain freeze.
Wow.
When you put the two of them together, okay, it's like we're getting screwed left,
Well, a lot of
right,
that,
and
a lot of,
center.
I agree with what you're saying, Poet, but a lot of that is self-generated because, and I even pointed this out in my latest blog on World of Trucking. Please go and check it out. One of the things I mentioned in my vlog was when you're looking for loads, you've got to factor in things like factoring being a part of the overall discussion of whether or not you're going to succeed in trucking. Now, albeit factoring is only 3 to 5% of the overall load, the question
Okay,
you need to ask yourself is, can you afford that? And you need to answer yourself that question before you even sign on the dotted line, to the point Fate was making a minute ago. Don't
okay,
do it if it's not part of your success formula.
okay. And as a company driver, I have never had to use a factoring company. I
Okay.
have dealt with load brokers,
Mhm.
okay?
Right.
And because the company that I was working for told me to,
Right.
but if it's really, uh, that's the last ditch effort,
Right.
okay? I'll
Okay.
leave that one alone for now.
All right. Welcome to Lance Poole. Glad you could join the show today. He's got a comment in there. Factoring is fine if you need quick money, but there are owners who get stuck in factoring, asking with low rates, and it'll put one out of business. I fully
Yes,
agree with that. More to Fate's point a minute ago, if you can't handle it, don't do it. It's just that simple. You know
I,
about it before you even sign the damn dotted line. So factoring is your fault. So go ahead, Fate. You look like you want to say something.
Well, I'm so triggered right now, you don't even know. I want to be sitting next to Thumper with a red Solo cup to like calm me down a little bit. Um,
Well, I mean, think about it. Factoring is something I'm sure you don't do. I mean, if you do, I mean, it's probably just for the sheer benefit of, keeping your finances in line, but it's not going to be a make or break situation for God's sakes. I mean, 3% of the load. And getting back to broker transparency, what damn difference does it make? It really doesn't. It's not going to make or break me. So, I mean, y'all can
so,
straighten him out. I don't care.
Hey,
I don't mean to
I'm
sound
hey,
not.
just to make clear, it's just root beer.
mm,
Even if it wasn't, I need a red Solo cup right now for how irritated I am. Um, and I'm not irritated with Poet. Let me be clear. I'm
oh,
irritated
I know.
with.
I know.
I'm irritated with that logic
Yeah.
because even part of the comment, low rates.
Mhm,
Listen, like you're a business. Like
mhm.
if you can't survive in the industry you're in, get out. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Get out.
Well, I
And
mean,
if three
to your point, I was going to say to your point. I mean, if you can handle it, be an owner operator. If you can't, there's the option: work for someone else, get paid 60 cents a mile or whatever. I mean, there's two ways about it. You can let somebody else run the money, or you do it. You
so
can't do it and run the money and then bitch because you made bad choices. That just don't make sense.
and
I autom
as a
Go ahead,
company
fake, fake,
driver,
fake.
I don't
You
have a
fake. Go ahead.
choice.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, again, fake. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say I automatically assume. I mean, I don't even want to make I have two friends that are brokers, okay?
Mhm,
That I've been in their office. Now, they have an office. They're not in a
mhm.
big building. They're in their house, right? Like we're not talking the TQLs and the Coyotes of the world. We're talking about a very small 3 employee brokerage.
Right.
I have watched him post freight where he literally is only making $100 on that load that if I was to take it, I would be making 10 times the amount that he is. Now, I am not saying that that is every brokerage, right? I have no idea what the margin is between a broker and then when I get the freight. I have no idea what that margin is. I can say this. If I pull a spot market load, that load does not go on my truck unless it works for me. If it works for me, it's not a low rate. Like, because whatever that rate is works for me. It might be low to Poet, it might be low to Thumper, but it's not low to me because it works for me.
Over some time, and I'm speaking from just my perspective, and over time I've noticed rates constantly drop, where normally in most industries they constantly go the other way. Now, I'm not saying that for any bad reason, but to the point you're making, I mean, it's not always the same. A broker will make X, the driver of the truck makes X, the people that own the truck. I mean, everybody's got their part in it. And since I've started driving, one thing I've noticed consistently is that the ratios keep getting lower and lower and lower. Now, that may be true for some people and not all. So I'm not putting everybody in a basket. All I'm doing is setting the scene to ask this main question. Do you think that despite the conversation we're having, and as of how I've described it and how you have mentioned it a minute ago, Faye, do you think that overall things are getting better or worse? I mean, in just the respective of rates, I mean, forget it. Everybody has their own dog in the fight. You know, I see what you're saying, Poets. It's hang tight. But as you pointed out a minute ago, what may work for one person a certain way may not be the same way for somebody else. And everybody's got their independent way of looking at things. You know, I feel that since 2012, when I started driving, things have gotten progressively worse. They're not dead, they're not bad, but it's why I want to make trucking great again. But having said that, everybody's got their own take. So I'll leave it to you, Faye. What do you think? Do you think things have gotten worse, or do you think they've gotten better?
On what on what spectrum?
On the perspective of rates and
are we talking rate, like money?
Yeah, on rates, yeah, and rates and money, yeah.
Okay, so I've been an owner operator for 4 years. I was an owner operator when everything was $5-6 a mile. I've been an owner operator in this market. My best year as an owner operator was last year.
Right.
Now, if you go on YouTube, last year was the worst freight market ever. But yet I had my very best year.
That's kind of the reason I'm asking the question, because everybody I pull up that's got a blog channel says, oh, the rates are so low, and they're showing us all these $1.40 a mile and $1.20 a mile rates. What they're not showing us is all of the good that can come out if you know where to find it. You know, so that's kind of what's troubling me. So, you know, that's a whole other video.
Well, let me say this. Like I said earlier, if you're solely on the spot market, you're having a tough time. I am not sitting here saying rates are absolutely fantastic at running the spot market. That's not at all what I'm saying. I run a lane that brings me out to the East Coast. If I did not have a customer out on the East Coast, I probably wouldn't go out there, because the rates coming back to my area are not good. You know what I mean? In my mind, like, I don't need to haul freight for that, because I can find pockets in the lanes that I know and can work one day and make $1,200 in 9.5 hours. To me, that's a good day, because you know, there's so many factors that go into that. I don't have high costs at home. My operation is a super fuel efficient operation. I don't have a lot of overhead.
Right.
All those things play a factor into being a business. The guy to my right can attest to that. That's like he said earlier, he hauls cattle for a customer. That customer every year or every 6 months, maybe even every 90 days, is going to want to review that contract. It's not the brokers. Sometimes the brokers are working with shippers that are cutting the rates. Think of businesses. The businesses eliminate their highest cost every year. They try and do that.
Right.
If you're shipping a product, your highest cost is shipping costs.
Yeah, it is. It is. Let me address the comments that are starting to stack up here. Cheap Freight Hauler, welcome to the show tonight. I appreciate you opining on the on the whole factoring conversation. He says factoring provides no protection from non-paying brokers. It's just another percentage that you have to give up in order to get paid faster to be a business person and get your finances in order. He goes on to say 25% for the truck. I'm not sure what part of what you were talking about he's referring to. 25% for the truck, 25 to fuel, 25 to driver, 25. If you're factoring in what every part of your business is, that sounds about fair. I would want more than 25% though. If I were the owner of the truck, that's a little narrow. But he says, I'm with you, Fate. My best year was 2023 and he started in 2019. So there you go.
Did you just say 25% isn't enough to you if you're the owner of the truck? Did I just hear you correctly?
Yeah, I want more than that. Yeah. Yeah. But again, remember, I'm only, 7 years of an owner operator. And as I clearly pointed out to you before, I've made mistakes. So I don't know. Am I sounding greedy? Do you think 25 is too much?
Oh, I don't think it's too much. I don't want people to get the wrong, like, I don't want to share.
You're kind of in the same thing I am. You're trying to figure out how to word it without giving your business away.
Yes.
Well, no, because I think what I've done is I've set myself up for misunderstanding. When I say 25% of the truck, I don't know what Cape Freight Hauler is referring to by that percentage. But in my mind, 25% of the truck, I want to make sure covers maintenance, fixed costs, and everything necessary to keep that truck running. And I don't feel like 25% is enough to do that.
That is what I'm talking.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the truck. So maybe that clears that up. I don't know, but that's my view. Because you got a lot going into a truck with expenses. If say you're generating $20,000 a month, hypothetically, so that's a lot of money.
I saw that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Poet. Go ahead, Poet.
Okay. Fate. I am not an owner-operator.
Mm-hmm.
I am a company guy. I tried being an owner-operator when I was 21, so that's like almost 50 years ago. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So all I can do is look at it from a company driver's view. Now, okay, Canada has 1/10 of the population of the USA, ergo, probably 1/10 of the number of truckers in the USA. So, because I'm the only one up here, I guess I'm overrepresented. Doesn't matter.
I wouldn't call it that, but
doesn't matter. But
yeah.
I am looking at it from a company driver's view.
Okay.
Who lost his ass 50 years ago. And if Fate wants to talk to me about how I lost it, we can do that in private.
Yep. I want to keep the show going. I want to keep the show. I want to keep the show going for the sake of the topic at hand. But I get what you're saying, Poet.
I'll shut up now.
No, it's not. It's not sure. Can I say one thing real quick?
Go ahead, Fate. Go ahead.
Can I get 30 seconds?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I'm not attacking you, Poet. B, you made the comment twice that you're looking at it from a company driver's perspective. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. That's the problem 100%. And so many people get into this industry with that mindset. They have the company driver mindset.
Yeah.
Being a business owner, the guy to my right can attest to this, is way different when you are actually looking at all the numbers and understanding what every penny is allocated for.
I understand that, Scott.
Well, no, and that's not even something to actually take in any negative way. That's just a fact he's pointing out. And to be honest with you, it's not really anything toward you personally. That is a demonstration, I'm sure, that can be put broadly against many, many people in this industry. If more people thought like an owner instead of a driver, there'd probably be a lot less mistakes made and probably a lot more money made. I don't know. Maybe I'm stating it wrong, but that's, I think, personally one of the messages he's trying to say and what he just said.
I'm
So,
good. I'm
um,
good.
and
Scott,
that being
Scott,
that being said,
Scott, you can always get a hold of me privately, and I will tell you what happened 50 some odd years ago.
we'll definitely talk about that. I want to get on to the
So,
comments. I see a new face, 18 wheeler. Yeah, I'll get with Dumper in just a second. I just want to say I just received a hard check from a broker for a load. My company doesn't show on our books, nor any loads on our books show for that amount of the check. Any ideas or potential fraud issues? Either you guys want to opine on that? You're certainly welcome to it. Go ahead, Dumper. Got any ideas?
On that, no. I I
No.
I had some
You
other
want to?
stuff I wanted to add.
Well, no. I was going to say, if you want to opine on what you guys were talking about, by all means, we'll get around to this too. Got a whole show here.
Kind of going back to what Fate was saying about, since I have a contract and they evaluate it every month,
Mhm.
it's kind of works that way, the way we got it set up with the cattle side, but a lot of it is like it's based off of fuel on the cattle side. If fuel prices go down, our rates drop. And
Mhm.
the issue we're running into is when fuel prices go up, it's hard for them to raise that rate to compensate for that fuel to come up. So, I mean, having a contract's a good thing versus going through a broker, but at the same time, you do need those brokers to get you to your next load where you already have a contract. So,
Yeah.
but in my line of work, I don't need a broker unless for some reason, say, I get sent down to like Texas or California or over to the East Coast, then yes, I would need to use a broker to get back to North Dakota here.
Right. Then the spot market becomes an important part to think about. So,
Which
yeah,
very, very rarely that happens on the cattle side. Generally, if we got a
yeah,
load going out there, we'll have to sit there for a day and they'll have a load for us coming back.
exactly. I mean, everybody's got their use for it. I mean, both you and Fate are, I would consider specialty only because you guys deal with outside of normal general freight, both of you. I deal with household goods, so I don't even touch general freight. But, and is no telling the people watching this show may be served by general freight. The spot market may be their thing. Maybe they might use it twice or maybe three times a week. Maybe I don't know. I'm just blowing smoke out there. I don't know. Um, when you're talking about this question, it's right below. 18 wheeler talks about having money and no ideas. I would say if you are, and I'll let you opine here in a second, Fate, because I see you raising your hand. If you're really curious, I mean, I wouldn't first go on there being a fraud issue with the broker. You just may have a change. A lot of times I've noticed when I worked with Landstar, some brokers will offer loads for a set amount. They'll send you the rate con, you'll see the dollar amounts, you'll see the terms. And then when you get the final payment, there's always going to be an adjustment, usually for surcharges. Typically, fuel surcharges will alter that amount. That may be the issue there, whether you're just not seeing load for load money or it's just a different dollar amount. I don't know. Maybe that gives you something to think about. I don't know. What do you think, Faye? You can go ahead.
So it's so small on my the comment's so small on my phone. Can you read
Yeah.
it again? Or I can try. It says, I just
Yeah.
received a hard check from a broker for a load my company doesn't show on our books. Right
Mhm.
there,
Yeah.
usually when you receive a hard check from a broker, somewhere on that check or on the summary of the check, it will have the load number, it will have all the information from the Raycon. If
Usually
you
itemized.
can't
Usually.
if
Yeah.
you can't find that,
Mhm.
it sucks to say, don't cash a check and get free money. I wouldn't cash a check that I show absolutely no record of me doing that load.
Yep.
Just because the reality is they can come back and ask that. I mean, if you cash that check and they realize they made a mistake, they can come
Yep.
back at you and
Yep. Yep.
retrieve that.
Yep.
You know,
He's
I
also
don't know if
related
it's
to something.
fraud.
Yeah. No, he's also related to something else from his Uber driver said yesterday told him that her husband worked for a dispatching or factoring company in KC. I thought it was here, but Kansas City maybe. Said he made over $200,000 a year. You know, I would be very suspicious. First of all, that information being given you third hand.
Mhm.
But yeah, if they're making that much, then that means people like everybody on this panel probably not getting what we could get. So there might be
Well,
some fraudulent crap going on there.
The
I
business
have
Just
to
saying.
get into. Oh, the
What's
business to
that?
get into. The business to get into is tow trucks.
Yeah.
We just had a truck towed from Fargo to Bismarck. It was about 275, 300 miles,
Wow.
$26,000.
Ouch. That is some crazy stuff right there.
I'm in the
That
long
is
run. I'm in the wrong line of work right now. If it costs
right.
that much to tow a truck 300 miles.
I ain't kidding you, man. I'll tell you what. Moving on, another comment here. Another fellow. That's cool. Rates for freight markets and lanes vary widely to freight available in certain areas. Lanes, one can pay higher than others, as you guys well know. Pick your lanes that pay the most. Good advice. Thank you. And
listen,
he comes
it's
back.
all
Go ahead. It's all what?
it's all averages. Okay,
Mhm.
that's what this industry is
Yeah,
averages. If
it
you
is.
like, I'm based out of Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. I'm 4 hours away from Fargo. I'm in a
Mhm.
very good freight market, right?
Yeah.
So I can leave my freight market for like $3.50, $4 a mile and head out to the East Coast, right?
Mhm.
Now if I just wanted to come right back to the Midwest, to Minnesota,
Mhm.
let's say, I'm gonna get about $1, if I'm lucky, $1.50. I think they're so it's all averages. I would look at
Yes.
my total miles on what that average would be. I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to pull out of the dock here, I think.
Okay. Do what you got to, my friend. Anyway, yeah. So Thumper, I mean, if you were going to make one change that would make things better and it relate to the brokers, what would that one change be?
Better for the brokers?
No, better. Well, that applies to the brokers. That's better for the industry. Let me word it that way.
Well, I guess I don't know. Faith probably is going to yell at me at this, and I'm okay with that.
That's the
I
reason I'm
think
asking the
I
question.
I I need to. I think there needs to be a cap on how much a broker can make off of a load. Like
Okay, now as
they
soon as you
don't.
say that, I know Fate's going to say this. I'm going to jump his gun, and I'm going to ask you: do you want a cap on what you can make?
Do I want? Well, no. I mean,
No.
it goes both
No.
ways.
Okay,
I
so then why should
understand
you?
that.
Why? Well, yeah. If they're going to, you're going to cap a broker and how much they can make. They're going to cap you too. And we're going to get to that, by the way. This next segment, I'm going to read off a couple of things, in my opinion, that relates directly to that. So,
I mean, I
Fate, I
guess
hope you can stick around. If
he's
you
trying not to yell at me. I can see it.
can't,
I mean, honestly, I really shouldn't say anything because I don't deal with brokers.
right, true.
So, I mean, if we're gonna be fair on that part,
Yeah,
on something what to better or whatever for brokers, I guess
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I
I've said
really
it for
don't
years.
have
Too many
anything.
trucks. Yeah, hold on, I'll get to you in a minute. Truck drivers, too many drivers buy trucks. Learn to be a business owner before you buy a truck. Amen to that, Chief Freight Hauler. I appreciate that comment. I'm going to get on to the second segment where I'm going to deliver an opinion that may or may not knock your socks off. So I want you guys to hang tight and I want you guys to opine on exactly what it is you think of my opinion. I want to know. So stick around for that.
Okay.
So, guys, when it comes down to freight brokers, are we opening a Pandora's box? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to ask ourselves a big question here. Are we moving in the right direction by pressing for those broker transparency regulations? Or are we about to shoot ourselves in the foot? Because up to this point, the debate is focused almost exclusively on what brokers owe us truckers. But there's a perspective here we're overlooking, and it's one that basically has consequences, not just for the brokers, but for the entire industry. Let's get something straight. Brokers are business people too, plain and simple. They're working to make deals, connect us with loads, and yes, make a profit, just like the rest of us. They have a role in this industry. And part of that role involves navigating through a jungle of regulations and conditions and dealing with contracts. Now, as a business owner, we all understand the power of keeping certain business dealings private. Like we talked about earlier, do we want to make everybody else aware of what we do? All right. The Owner Operator Independent Association, or OIDAs, pushed for broker transparency as if it's the answer to all of our problems. Well, let's be real. What happens when we start down this road and it becomes a precedent? All right. What happens when regulations creep their way into our own operations as if they already haven't bad enough? And suddenly we're expected to disclose more than we are comfortable with. It's been pointed out before, and I'll say it again. All right. We got to be very careful what we ask for. All right. You can't demand transparency from one side of the industry without opening the door to scrutiny across the board. If we open up these transaction details and mandate that electronic disclosure of every broker deal be set, we're setting a stage for something that could come back and bite us. We'll have regulators salivating to impose more controls and scrutinize more contracts. So let's not kid ourselves. Increased transparency sounds good on paper, and it almost looks good to all of the rather uneducated business owners out there. Okay, but do we really want to create a system where all aspects of our operations are subject to government regulatory control? Every time we take on a new rule, we inch closer and closer to losing the autonomy in this business that's so important to us getting our job done and being competitive. By pushing for this, we may find out that we've swung an open door that we can never shut again. So instead of focusing on increased regulations, why not, just for a second, think, why not improve communication? How about holding both parties accountable for better reporting? Be more clear and concise on the contracts you write. Be more thoughtful and open about what it is you want from a broker. Don't deal with the ones that don't give you what you want. Forget what they make. Concentrate on what you make. And what you do, be clear, be open, and be concise with them. The answer doesn't have to be more government oversight. It shouldn't be about reinforcing trust and efficiency. Instead, it should be better communication. So here's the debate for you. I want to hear what you think. I want you opining on what you think will actually make the difference. Call our studio, 860-785-3547. Leave a comment, leave a chat, or email the studio. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. Let's talk about it. Do we really want to open that Pandora's box? Tell me, guys, what do you think? Thumper, what say you?
Well, I mean, it's a snowball effect. You start putting regulations on one person, it's going to go to the next person, then the next person. It's just we're going to have more of a headache on the road. It literally, whatever they do to them is going to affect us drivers more than them, because they're going to find a way to pass it on to make me. We're how do I explain it? We're kind of like the lowest people on the totem pole.
Right.
You know, we got people we got to answer to. They got people they got to answer to, and that's why I kind of just stick with my contracts.
Yeah.
It's
Lance
less
Poole
of
was
a headache.
opining on your towing situation. He says, yeah, but those records can easily cost $500,000 or more. So are you feeling bad about that tow bill now?
Yeah, well, it hurt the pocketbook.
I hear you. Driving with John in the audience. I'm thinking a
Hey,
truck
John.
is 80% of what you do and 20% what happens to you. Well
Hey,
said, my
John.
friend.
Hey,
Well
John.
said. Well said. Well said. I echo that. Hey, John, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. Broker transparency is a scam, he says. I kind of was going there, but I wasn't gonna let that slip till the end of the show. Thank you for spoiling it. Chief Brangholer says the only thing a broker owes truckers. Okay, I hope you finished that. Oh, yeah, he did. Following the letter of the contract that's agreed to by both parties is the only thing a broker owes truckers. This includes detention pay, pick and delivery times, and promptly paying the truck as agreed. Yes, I
Mhm.
fully 100% agree. But
Okay.
now, in terms of what's being said in this landline article, and my opinion there too, I really think broker transparency should be left as is. I don't think there's a problem. And like John says, I do think the whole concept, the OIDA is raising, I think, is nothing more than an excuse for people to see the money involved when they don't need to see the money. Just do your job. Communicate clearly, do your job, provide a service people want more than others do, and you've got nothing to worry about.
Didn't
Um,
Fate bring up a thing, was it last week or the week before, about how if it's not in black and white and they change something on you, the contract is now non-avoided or avoided or voided. I can't put my words
if the
together here.
essential terms, I think what he said, yes, if the essential terms of the contract are altered, then the contract itself becomes voidable because the terms were altered.
And see,
Or if they're not honored, same thing. But
that's
that,
kind of where it gets
yeah,
people in trouble because, well, you have this load on now, and they're changing on you now. You feel obligated. You have to do it, and you're the one who's getting screwed in the end.
exactly, exactly. Well, I mean, it's a double-edged sword because the same thing happens both ways. I mean, if you notice the contract says something the broker doesn't honor, you can void it, but then the same is true the other way too.
Yep.
If you fail to meet an obligation or if you fail to do something, the broker can do the same thing to you, and it's far worse for them because they can withhold the funds to you. So
Hmm.
you've just worked for free. So you have to be really careful with that.
Yeah.
Um, do you want to share your numbers with the broker? No, he says, and I fully agree with him there. Um, Driving John saying hello to you. So maybe OIDA knows something about profit margins, brokers, and receiving what we don't. Just the thought they may know things we don't. That's a good point. I mean, it's at least what I was saying a minute ago. I mean, is it really about control or is it about knowing what's there? Because right now, the only time, as Fate said earlier, the only time we really have to disclose anything is when we do our taxes. I don't want to be telling the brokers what I make. I don't want to be telling customers what I make or any other interested party that looks at whatever database you have to set up. I don't care. It's none of their business. It's mine, not theirs. You know. So good point, John. I appreciate you bringing that up. Trying to manipulate my comments here. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Um, he says, Chief Rate Hauler says, I'm not going to ask the broker to see their books, and they will not see mine. Yeah, it seems like we're all on the same page here. Let me ask you something. If we start demanding transparency from brokers, what's to stop regulators from coming after our own records? Where would that line then stop? If this were
Nothing.
actually, yeah, nothing exactly. I mean, think about the precedent it sets. It's just where I came from, Pandora's box. It's exactly what it would be. I mean, the article itself suggests that a lack of transparency is costing our industry $800 million a year. Yeah, there may be fraud, but is it because of transparency? No, the
No.
fraud is because of other things. The fraud is way off base of transparency. So let me ask you, do you believe that enough Do you believe that $800 million is enough of a reason to make this kind of change, or do you think we need to do other things? And if so, put in the comments, those watching, what types of things do we need to do other than transparency that may address that $800 million? I want to hear that. Call our studio, 860-785-3547, or put it in the chat. I want to hear from you guys. It suggests it's fraud, but I don't believe it's because of transparency. So let me see what you think.
800 millions is a drop in the bucket.
It is. It is. Especially when you consider what we make, what we generate revenue-wise, industry-wide. It is a drop in the bucket. But it's not because of transparency. And transparency is not going to fix it.
Nope. Exactly. So
John says, learn how to negotiate. Good, yeah, good call. Very accurate statement. I do believe that. Chief Freight Hauler says, don't worry about the broker's profit margins. Count your money, that theirs. How is it Kenny Rogers worded it? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
exactly.
Yeah, good point, my dude. Good point. Sorry, driving with John, I do not speak emojis, but I do get the 100% thing.
He's saying to the comment above him. That's what that figure means.
Oh, I know. I'm just picking on him. He's not here. I can do it. I can get away with it.
Right?
A.T. Willard says, I mean, everyone's out there groaning about the market. So obvious an issue. Rates haven't inflated with inflation. So where's the money going? Good question. Any thoughts?
Somebody's back pocket.
Wait a minute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Faye. Go ahead. We can hear you. What's your thought?
I'm sorry. I'm driving now, so if it's loud. That comment you just read, can you read that again?
18 Wheeler opines and says, I mean, everyone is out there groaning about the market. So obviously it's an issue. Rates haven't inflated with inflation. So where's the money going?
Rates aren't this isn't a W-2 job where you get raises every year. Listen, the freight market.
Go ahead, Faye. Hold on. Go ahead.
Like I said, so inflation was more last year than it is currently right now, correct? We can all agree on that, right? Like the net, inflation is still a thing. Oh yeah,
No.
inflation was higher last year, Poet, than it is now.
Maybe,
let him finish his point.
Maybe in the USA.
All right. Poet,
I'm going to you're on a live show that's in the USA. We're talking about the trucking in the United States.
I'm going to do this. I am going to ask you, Poet, let him finish his point, and then you can opine afterwards. Continue, Faith.
Inflation was higher than it is this year. Inflation is a real thing. I just told you, 20 minutes ago? I made more money last year than I've ever made as an owner-operator. So, obviously, rates increased with inflation, even though you don't view it that way. You understand what I'm saying?
Now you can reply. Go ahead, Poet.
Okay. Fate.
Be quick about it.
Fate. The inflation rate up here in Canada is way higher than in the USA. Now, I've already said I'm a company driver, okay? And I have to deal with the BS that's going on up here, which is different than what you're dealing with. However, the inflation rate up here is still higher than the USA. So, as an overrepresented, 10% of the trucking industry up here, I have to disagree.
Okay. And that's your freedom. That's your freedom.
How can you disagree, Poet, when you have said the phrase 3 times now that you are not an owner-operator, you don't negotiate rates? How can you argue? I'm not arguing that Canada has a higher inflation rate than the United States. What I'm saying is, if rates are so bad, how the hell did I make more money than I ever have before in my life?
Because that's you're in the point. USA.
Oh, it does. I can't.
No. You know what? Canada is based off of the United States to the degree that what happens here is far worse in Canada because of the difference in the economy. That has
Yeah,
nothing to do with what choices you make, and it has nothing to do with the loads available to you to make those choices.
and
So I think
all
what Fate's trying to say, and what I'll echo because I believe what he's saying is true, is don't sit there and blame an external force for a problem you created yourself. And it just
no,
goes to show you the comment underneath what I'm seeing right now. Driving with John says if drivers are groaning about the market, it's only because they're doing spot market freight and they're putting themselves in a bad position and they're paying the consequences for their own lack. Well
okay,
said, my friend. And I think
okay,
that
okay, and I agree with that. But
Mhm,
north of the 49th parallel, things
mhm,
are different.
mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm a
I don't disagree with that.
Canadian company driver.
Mhm.
Okay, things are way different up here. And yeah, okay, you may not agree. I don't much give a rat's rear end.
How
However,
can I hold on? How can I agree with something that I'm not part of, poet? Like I'm not arguing with you.
okay,
I don't live in Canada. I
okay,
can't I I can't say
okay.
anything about
So,
Canada.
okay,
Right.
how can I agree with something that's happened south of the 49th parallel? I'm the only Canadian on the panel. Okay, how can I agree with what's happening south of the border when I see things different up here?
I don't expect you to agree.
Okay,
You're assuming I expect you to agree with me. I don't expect you to
no,
agree with me.
Uh,
no, I
how
don't.
about we move
I
on?
don't. I really don't.
I
But
believe in giving everybody an opportunity to make a case, but I do
okay,
not believe in beating a horse till it's dead because you know what?
no,
We've been through this several moments now.
I
I've
know.
given you guys plenty of time to talk
Scott,
about this, so I
Scott,
don't want to bore the people watching.
Scott, can we just agree to disagree on what's happening north and south of the border?
If you
I don't
are a
know that you can do
business,
that.
if you are a business, no, like we can't. My business isn't predicated on what happens.
Very true indeed.
I
Says the
didn't
press
even
editor.
hear that.
If we were only in Canada, right? Look, I don't mean to sound sarcastic, but honestly, I mean the whole issue on tonight is about whether or not regulatory reform or on broker transparency would actually hurt or help the industry. I am not of the opinion that it would help in any way. I think it's a Pandora's box. I think it's not even necessary to entertain. And I've had several
Exactly.
people in the comments already opine um,
Exactly. On
a
both
similar thing.
sides of the
Driving
border.
Yeah, driving with John adds. I'm going to add two more comments, and I'm probably going to wrap this up tonight. Fate,
Okay.
be honest. The only reason you make more money last year is because you made good decisions and you work with customers instead of the load board. That was driving with
Yes,
John saying.
that is
Mhm.
exactly what it was too.
Yes, sir. And kudos to
He
him
wa-
for noticing that.
he wasn't doing the spot market thing unless he needed to
Yeah. And
fill
unfortunately,
his
yeah,
trailer to.
yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know if we have a signal issue, but Fate just dropped out. But 18 Wheeler says, didn't Fate just say he pulls a load home for $1.50 back to Minnesota? And what he does
Um,
is he sets
so
himself up, whether he pulls $1.50 out or pull it back. The overall package works for him. It pays the bills and it sets him up for
Mhm.
success. I've heard
yeah,
him talk about it. So, I mean, don't
it
misunderstand what he said.
yeah, it's
Go
I
ahead.
mean I could elaborate on that too because
Yeah.
it's kind of the same way for me also.
Yeah.
It's like him and I were both saying sometimes you got to take that cheaper freight to get to the better one or to get back home, but all that matters
Yep.
is your averages at the end of the year. That's the only way you're
Well,
Exactly.
gonna
not even
make
that.
money.
Not even at that. I mean, if you're working a lane, you might go out on $1 a mile, but if you come back at $6 a mile, you average out at 4 or 350 or whatever the average is. You average out the 2 in that lane. You don't take it load by load. If you take it load by load, you're going to forever be in the doom house. I mean, because you're going to be sitting waiting on that good rate that will never show. So, you know,
like my line of work with the cattle.
Yeah.
So we're loaded one way. That's it. So we will go all the way out to Billings, Montana, which from Bismarck, North Dakota is 600 some miles, and go all the way to Long Prairie, Minnesota, which is over 1,200 miles. So over 1,200 miles, you're getting paid, but I'm coming back to the shop empty, waiting for my next load. But the only reason why we do that is because it averages out to what we need.
Yep.
That's the only reason why we come back empty. It averages itself out.
Exactly.
Yep. I'll close on his comment down below. 18-wheeler says, yeah, cheap rate hauler, $1.50 mile is good for any load, but it's a travesty. Loads should pay more than that in today's economy. Well, you know, 18-wheeler, I don't know how long you've been in it. I mean, when I started, I mean, loads were averaging $3 a mile. It was a good market at that point in time. But back to driving with John's point, you can't always depend on that because sometimes those loads are coming through the spot market. And as a result, usually when that happens, contract rates fall a little bit. You know, everything averages out. You're not always going to see that boom bust cycle every single year. Traditionally, they start higher in the spring and then get lower in the winter months because they're preparing for, you know, different events, things like that, or certain cycles that occur with loads. And brokers know this, and they price accordingly. You know, so again, going back to the conversation, if we sit here and put ourselves in that box of what everybody else is doing, we're so consumed with that we're losing sight of what we are doing. So let's not lose focus. At the end of the day, we're looking to set ourselves up in a circumstance that helps us. When we can help ourselves, we can then reach out and help the industry.
Exactly.
Yeah. Closing thoughts, guys?
You got one? You have none? Okay. Well, I guess I'll do my normal routine.
Let's close on this. I mean, if the government really starts down this path, where do we draw the line? What stops them from going further? What are your thoughts there?
It's a hole. I mean, that's just kind of what it is. It's a hole. You're not going to be able to find the stop. Once they start, it's the government. They can do whatever they want.
That's right.
You're never going to find the end of it. And just a couple final thoughts here. God bless everybody in the United States and up in Canada. Raising my cup up for the first responders and everything else, dealing with the hurricanes and the fires, the hurricanes out east, fires in the Midwest. And we don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Amen to that. You know, instead of focusing on increasing regulation, why not encourage improved communication? Why not improve things from within and go out? How about holding both people and both parties accountable, starting with you? Finding a trustful news source is easy. Now you've got Driving with John, Grumpy Old Trucker, Thumper, Fate, Midlife Larry, everybody here, and Poet included, giving you a perspective on news you need. We're live twice a week on Frontlines. We encourage you to come along, subscribe, like the show, and join us Wednesdays and Saturdays at 7 o'clock. We're here for you. We're doing what we have to because we know at the end of the day, no one else cares. Till next time, my guys, keep it real, keep the faith, and keep it rolling.